Hey everybody, welcome back to our Neck of the Woods. We got another 1LE video for you guys. I've got some aftermarket parts to install, and in a couple weeks, Erin and I are gonna be going back to the racetrack, which you guys are gonna tag along for. So come on inside and I'm gonna show you what we got going on. All right, so before our next track day, we are gonna be going to Mid-Ohio. So it is a very fast track and it is also very brake heavy, and this is a very heavy car. So a couple things that I wanna take care of. As you guys remember, we installed the aftermarket brake cooling ducts. Well, I had to remove a heat shield that was behind this tow arm right here. Well, this tow arm is all consistent of rubber. And because Mid-Ohio is so heavy on braking, these rotors are gonna get really hot. I do not wanna melt the rubber on the tow arm, so we have to replace these with aftermarket that are basically all metal. And again, the reason why everything's gonna get so hot is not only are we on slicks, which are gonna have more heat in them to be able to stop later, which is gonna put more heat into the brakes, we're also gonna be putting in some aftermarket racing brake pads. So all of that is going to apply a hell of a lot more heat to the rotor, and we basically do not want that to melt. So tonight I was gonna get ready to install SPL aftermarket tow arms, but as I'm kind of looking at everything up in there, it doesn't look like it's gonna happen because I have no way to jack up the freaking car. Those scissor jacks that I used in the last video when we did install the brake cooling ducts, both of them failed. They basically threaded up in themselves to push the front of the car up, and I was well under the weight limit. Each one of those was 1.5 tons or 3,000 pounds. And obviously I was only lifting up one corner here and one corner here. And on the way back down, both of them cross-threaded within themselves and they both failed. So I've got no way to jack the front of the car up. I was looking at a way to get the back of the car up. We do have a little bit more room back here with the jack tray and this bottle jack, but as you push it on forward, there's too much front end rake and the bottle jack ends up bottoming out, and basically again, there's no way for me to get the car up into the air. And the jack that we have over here, which is a low profile, I can't really put this up on here at like a real sharp angle to get in there to be able to jack it up. So that's not gonna work either. So the only thing I was able to find online is an air jack, which is this guy right here. Its minimum lowered height is 4.3 inches and it goes up almost to 1 foot. So I'm hoping that air jack can sit like right here, which is well under 4.3 inches, and we can push up somewhere on this or even back here on the pinch weld and be able to basically just do one side at a time. If you guys got another suggestion on how to get a car up off of a 4-post lift easy, let me know. And by the way, buying the lift thing or the jack that sits up in here for like a ridiculous $1,000 to $1,400, that might not even work because it does not sit flush within these trays. It sits above also the height of the jack tray up on here, which again, we may not be able to then drive on because the front may catch the jack before we actually get on. So I'd spend $1,400 and it would be a complete waste of money because that thing weighs 350 pounds and there's no way I can set the tray up on here, have the car up in the air where we're not rubbing right now, and then be able to manhandle that thing up in there that's 350 pounds and get it to sit in here. So once again, that idea would even be out. But fingers crossed that that airbag that I just ordered from Amazon is on the way, and hopefully that can just push up one side at a time and will work. I could probably get this undone tonight, but as you kind of have to pull it back down here and pull it out of the front knuckle, well, you can see the bottom of it would end up hitting the wheel. So the wheel does have to come off to be able to pull those down. So I cannot start this project tonight, unfortunately. But I'll be back in a day or two when that jack shows up, and then we'll at least get started, hopefully, on those fronts. And then again, because we are going to the racetrack, we are gonna have to do some maintenance stuff. It's been a while. that we've done the brakes, and since we are using a racing brake fluid, it's probably a good time to go ahead and change that out again. If you guys have missed the video on that, I'll just show you how to quickly do that by quickly swapping out all of the fluid, and it's instant when you have actually a pump to do it instead of actually somebody just sitting there and pumping the brakes up. That thing is worth its weight in gold, I swear. And then I think the only other thing that I have to do is we need to swap out the street oil, and we actually need to put in racing oil. So brakes, oil, brake pads, front tie rods, and then if there's anything else that I can think of, that's all that we have to do before Erin and I actually go to the racetrack. So stick around, I'll be back in a few days, and we'll get all this stuff done. Hey guys, I'm back. I'm not ready to work on the car tonight, but I am so freaking stoked. I just tried this jack out. It fits in the freaking jack tray. We've got internal frame rails that we can jack up on. And with the air compressor aired up, you simply just rotate a valve here. You can control it very slowly by on and off. And check it out, just that easy. Within like 3 to 4 seconds, we're off the ground. And I'm pretty sure 2 jacks could fit in here at the exact same time. So I'm so freaking stoked. For only like $119 times 2, if I buy like a splitter to divert this into 2 sections at the same time, we can get the entire car up off of the ground with just absolute ease. That's so much cheaper than like $1,400 for a jack. For a 4-post car lift. So back at Mid-Ohio for another Indy and Porsche series, but apparently Erin signed up for the 2-seater challenge, got accepted. So along with probably 24 or more other people, it looks like she's gonna get to go into a ride-along, which promises up to 180 miles an hour. So faster than she's ever been before, but we'll see how this goes.
And the G's, and the G's.
Maybe.
We're doing this for the G's.
Maybe. It's wet. It rained. She'll be on intermediates, it looks like. All these people, and she insisted on being dead last, so her tires will be warm.
What? I don't know what to say. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else I can do with the rest of my life. I have to drive. I don't even know how to explain what that feels like.
So I have to get another car.
Maybe I need to be in like open wheel racing.
Oh.
I got like under that much braking. And my quads also I feel like I just did 100 squats.
For one lap.
Yes, it's outrageous. There's just nothing, I don't know. I shouldn't have done it because now I've experienced it for the rest of my life. I have to know that I'm not doing that.
You also are only braking on intermediates or wets, so you weren't even braking on slicks.
Yeah, I thought of that as I'm driving around losing my mind.
You know the helmet wanting to pull
It
up
could be
when you're
even
going
faster.
quicker?
Yeah, like the braking as you're coming to turn 4. Oh my god.
How fast do you think they got up there?
It's hard for me to know, but I had heard the one guy say like 160 and they're not getting up to speed because it said it's very slick.
I can't comment on that, but you say there's nothing like it.
I'm sure, obviously, that I've experienced is what I mean. I know
Right.
that F1 is more amazing than that.
No, I'm talking about motorcycles. Motorcycle on this track's insane, but VIR is even more insane because you're literally good enough rider in a fast enough turn. I mean, you can touch your helmet to the concrete. That's an experience
That would be a
too.
ride along I probably would decline.
I mean, I guess you could technically.
I don't think a lot of people are doing tandem. Well, there is tandem racing. I guess if I had a tandem driver, I'd feel safe.
Could also do Isle of Man and do the tandem sidecar.
Isle of Man shouldn't even be a thing.
Why? 1 to 2 people dying every year?
It's a bit extreme.
It's time for the most famous words in all of sport. Here to give the command for the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio, presented by the 2023 Hybrid Accord, please welcome singing sister trio, Sorella.
Drivers, start your engine!
Taking his way under the Honda bridge there, turn 1 behind another Honda pace car with the lights still on. Sure will take a couple of pace laps. We are watching it down as they wave the green flag. They look to be formed up well to me. They're just hitting the gate now. Still waiting. He's on the grid.
Hey everybody, so back home yesterday, by the way, was freaking amazing. Erin loved the ride along. Mid-Ohio was great as always. And then we actually ended up getting dinner over in Granville, which if you haven't heard me talk about Granville, Ohio before, it's like the most perfect picturesque town you can think of. We actually ended up going down there and it was actually their 4th of July party. So it's still like an old-timey town. Reminds me of like back in the 50s. Everyone is so nice and pleasant. The homes are all unique and custom and really old. And they shut the entire main street down for like a block party and had a carnival for the 4th of July and then fireworks that night. So if you guys are ever in Ohio and can stop into Granville, I highly recommend checking it out, roaming the town, just walking everywhere, looking at the houses, and then getting something to eat on Main Street. All right, so back to the 1LE, getting it ready for the track day. Unfortunately, we have run into some problems. SPL states that you cannot run their tow arms with 18-inch wheels unless you are willing to basically cut the whole bottom of this. Now that brings up a few problems. Number one, getting these things installed isn't just a simple unbolt and bolt on. Obviously you would know that because you have to go get an alignment again, which we just freaking paid for. So hopefully the alignment shop will cut us a break. Since we're not doing a 4-wheel alignment that I think they charge like $280 for because it's a racing shop and they put like 160 pounds of airbags in the front seat, etc. So it's a little bit more involved than just your local tire place. But we know we need an alignment. Again, it's just a tow. They simply would just have to like loosen this guy right here and then spin it in and out to get the tow where I want it to be, and then I'm done. But the problem is SPL comes with these washers here. The factory arm has a nice little like kind of divot and gives it a different angle to these. And of course, this is basically just kind of like a straight 90. So they give you these washers here. They've got a 1/2 inch, a 1/4 inch, and an 1/8 inch. And you're supposed to use like some bump steer machine to like put on there to get the bump steer correct. Or basically you just eyeball it with one of the lower arms. And that's how you know how many spacers you end up needing. Now, you can't use all of these spacers anyway, because as you can see, the nut they give you with a nylon insert, the threads aren't even halfway in there before the nylons engage. So basically, if you needed, based on if you had like lowering springs, or maybe if you wanted your Camaro to go off-roading and you actually put a lift kit on there and you did need all 3 of these, well, you wouldn't even be able to use this washer again because you're not engaging any of the threads or the nylon lock washer. Now, they do give you some of these thinner ones for something else. They're not meant to go on this bottom. But we technically could use this if we needed all 3 spacers, because not only are all of the threads now showing, but there's a lock washer in here called a Nord lock washer, I think it is. If you look at the picture right here, what it is, it's an anti-backout thing that's supposed to be better than anything else on the market. They're expensive, but if you look at it, that picture shows gripping teeth in the middle and gripping teeth on the outside. So as you lock tight or push a bolt down and torque it to spec, all of those teeth kind of like grip and rip into the surface of your nut and whatever surface that you're going into, and basically the thing can't ever back out. So because they're very thin profiled, we basically could use this nut here, use that lock washer up in there, and then again, if we did need all 3 of these spacers, it wouldn't be a problem. But SPL on our car at least says that you will not need all 3 of these. We just have to go under there and measure what we actually need based on the arm length again. But the major problem again that SPL states, we cannot use 18-inch wheels unless again we want to grind that whole bottom down, which I don't think you'd be able to use that thicker lock washer anyway. You would basically have to use the thinner washer. You would have to hopefully have that spacer not be so much, and then you're basically putting this whole thing into a grinder and grinding it down. Well, basically, I'm just not comfortable with that. I don't want to screw up my parts and basically kind of hack something together. So unfortunately, we are going to have to go back to 19-inch wheels. And I was able to secure a factory 19 rear wheel. So while this guy is all damaged and broken and everything, we are going to be able to just basically pop this wheel off, put the tire back on, and then it looks like going to Mid-Ohio for, I think, this week coming up. We're going to have to be back on the factory wheels and be back on the factory rubber. we're gonna have to sell these 18s with 1-day racing slicks on them. So anybody out there wants them, they're gonna be up for sale. And then what I think I'm gonna end up doing, because the factory wheels are forged and they're stronger than just regular aluminum. Apex does sell forged, by the way, but I don't wanna pay that price. I think once these tires here are burned up, we're probably gonna put racing slicks on those, and then those are just gonna be our everyday track wheel. But I think I am gonna buy another set of Apex in 19s, and we'll put some just regular old good street tires on the aftermarket 19 Apex, not forged, because I can save some money doing that. I think right now there's a 4th of July special that these wheels are like $100 and something off. So you're looking at probably under $2,000 to buy new 19s that aren't forged. And then we can just buy tires at a later date. But selling these will pay for our new 19s. And then again, down the road, once those tires are burned up, we just have to go ahead and replace them with a better track tire as opposed to what they put on there from the factory. And then we should be good to go to be able to run these SPL tow arms here. And if we look up in here, this is kind of what I was saying, which they're recommending, how the tow arm and this lower control arm are kind of on the same playing field. That's basically all we can go off of because we don't have some fancy bump steer kit to put on here and actually measure everything. So I guess we're just gonna use our new fancy jack airbag. We're gonna do one side at a time here, take all of this off, put the SPLs on, and then we just have to put the factory 19s back on. And fingers crossed, the freaking new 19 that I bought will get here in time that we can put the factory tire back on and get rid of that broken wheel. And then again, we will be already set up and ready to go to Mid-Ohio. And because we'll be back on the factory tires with the factory wheels and damn near everything is factory, we're not going to put our racing brake pads on, but we still have to do a brake flush and an oil change today. So we're gonna try and knock all that out right now. So let's just get started. Now, just an FYI, I am gonna make something. That airbag jack doesn't get the pinch welds up off the ground high enough for me to put a jack under there, so then I can lower it off of the airbag. So I've got some 6x6 wood in there, and I just bought some like pinch weld pucks, these guys right here. So I'm not relying 100% on the airbag, so the car doesn't drop. I'll put a 6x6 piece of wood underneath of there that I'll cut to the right height, set that puck in there, and then I can lower the airbag onto the 6x6, and that'll basically be my new jack stand, unless they make like a really short jack stand. Because again, I don't want to be working on here 100% relying on that airbag, because if that airbag bleeds out, even if it's just really slowly, and the car falls all the way to the ground with no wheel on, I'm basically screwed. Right, unfortunately for now, we're just gonna have to put the block under there and actually rely on that not letting go. If it falls, it'll just fall on the wood, but I don't want to put that wood up in there now because it'll hit the pinch weld, and I don't want that pinch weld to bend. So let's get this off and let's see if we can get this first tow arm actually installed. Again, anybody wants those, one track day, Mid-Ohio, on the slicks and on those Apex wheels. All right, install looks pretty easy. Looks like it's just one nut, and we have to put something up here to hold the threads so it doesn't spin inside. And then there's one lock nut over here. So that comes off, the whole thing pops out, hopefully, unless it's stuck in there, because it is a like a tapered wedge. We might have to remove this though if we got to hammer this guy out, but we could also hit the control arm maybe, but hopefully because it's a new car, this thing will pop right out. Holy crap, that wasn't even tight. I'm not even joking. That took like maybe an ounce of pressure for me to actually get this guy to loosen. Now this is either a good thing or a bad thing that this is threading like this. This thread is not moving yet, So that means that it's really wedged up in there, that it can't fall back out, or it's just the amount of pressure that has been on this over the years, or 1 year that I've owned it. It's just kind of tight in there. But we're not gonna get this nut all the way off unless we do hammer this down. So this is gonna take a second. All right, that's basically off. We just need to see if this thing will actually, oh my God, I love new cars. How can I express that enough that I love new cars? That thing literally just took a tap with my hand. That nut was barely on there. There's grease all over this shaft. So that's why it was, or the taper shaft. That's why I was able to pop out with just literally a hand smack. I know the car's got 3,000 miles on it, but it just makes me so happy when in my past, I've worked on such older cars where things take 1,000 years to get apart. I know there's some jealous mechanics out there right now. All right, this guy may be a different story. These are really cheap cast steel and like steel, so these could be rusted all the way through here. Since this is threaded and we have to get the entire thing off, I don't want to lose my alignment too much. So I'm gonna try to just spin this nut and that's it. I don't want to move that nut anymore. And hopefully the SPL is the exact same length. But hopefully this guy threads off really easy, which again, it is. That is freaking beautiful and could not be any better than this of an install. All right, so first up, this is what I was talking about, the angle, because this thing, you know, if this is straight up and down, this looks like it has a tapered up. This is obviously, again, a perfect 90, so yeah, we don't want this to articulate too much, even though you can articulate it. You don't want it to max out. But again, it looked like the way that this guy was sitting on the car and the way that lower control arm was sitting on the car, it looked like this was all completely straight, flat, in a plane. And the reason why bump steer is important, I don't know if you've ever driven a car that had bad bump steer or an alignment that was messed up, where everything may be in line, but if things like this, components were taking into effect, you could literally be driving down the road and hit the smallest bump and your steering wheel will rip out of your hand and like put you in another lane. It can be that violent and that aggressive. And if you're not ready for it, even again, 20 miles an hour on the street, it rips your hand so fast, you could end up in a crash. You don't want that to happen on a racetrack where you're doing 140 miles an hour because the exaggeration of it moving could be that much worse. And I will say that this car already does have a little bit of bump steer. With some of the highways out here being redone and stuff, even if you have a little bit of a transition where, you know, this road is paved and this one's not 100%, just going off of a bump on the highway, this car likes to jump a lot. So hopefully we can try and improve that bump steer. But I just want to see if, one, we can get this to kind of match. If we, as you can see, the SPL shoots out a little bit further. So looks like we want to loosen this guy up and bring this nut all the way in and then probably thread that all the way in. And now we're a hell of a lot closer to probably trailering it. I probably will. I'll just trailer it to the alignment shop. But we want to get this guy toe-wise as close as possible. All right, now I'm gonna just spend some time finding out how many spacers we need to get that all back level. I will have to put a 19-inch wheel on, or you know what, screw it. Let's try and put an 18-inch on, and let's see what actually catches on this bottom with all the spacers or without. It doesn't really matter because it's the black threads that are gonna be the lowest part of this device. All right, I did grease this up. Next part of the install, they use a taper kind of nut on here where it's like crushed into itself. So this nut up here kind of forms its own lock washer. But the only way to get this thing tightened, because they have nothing to hold, like the factory had that 8mm space up there. The reason why they give you these two nuts here, these thin ones, is you lock them into each other. And now you have something to hold on down to here while you tighten this guy up. So we just need to tighten this guy up, and then we take these back off, and then we can start playing with our spacers that we actually need to use. All right, that top nut is semi-snug down. This thing moves too much, obviously, because now you don't have a power steering rack holding it still. So let's take those nuts back off. I still have to buy those like Nord lock washers, but we might be able to, again, use the nylon one and get this thing all torqued down. Again, it just depends on how this thing's gonna look with the spacers that we're using. But fingers crossed this all works, and I don't know, maybe even with the 18, just fingers crossed the thing can slide back on there. All right, so I just got it on. That was a little bit of an issue because that aftermarket like tie rod end is so stiff, it doesn't like to rotate a lot, so you kind of have to get it just right to slide it up onto the threads. But I just went ahead and went with the 1/2 inch, and I went with the 1/4 inch. So I guess right now, let's try and put the 18 back on. If the 18 doesn't fit, then I'll go grab a 19 and put it on there. Then we have to lower it back to the ground, and we have to see if the tie rod and the lower control arm are basically parallel with each other. No clue if my alignment's on, but like I said, screw it. We'll just tow it to the alignment shop anyway. Again, that's what we're looking like right now. I just went ahead and used this guy so I wouldn't mess up the nylon threads yet. So basically it's just kind of like a one-time use on that nylon. But this and this do seem to be kind of parallel even off the ground, but they say the most important thing if you don't have a bump steer angle kit is to actually put it on the ground at ride height to actually see what this looks like. And we also want to make sure that once this is on, this tie rod end here basically isn't jacked all the way this way or jacked all the way that way. We want it to be in line as much as possible so it rotates around this bushing appropriately. And again, everything is kind of parallel with everything for here, for bump steer, and for here for articulation, so this doesn't wear out or blow out prematurely. All right, I'm assuming SPL knows what the hell they're talking about, so I got a feeling this definitely will not fit because about 1/4 inch of the black threads are showing, and it doesn't. So it looks like the black threads are hitting the wheel, and yeah, maybe if we did go ahead and grind all of the black thread off, which means we would have to use one of those nuts on there and not the nylon that comes with it. It looks like you could get maybe away with 18s, but yeah, unfortunately, I bought these. I've never used them. They only have 1 track day on them with these slicks here. So I'm basically just gonna sell them exactly what I paid for them. And it looks like we're gonna have to be on the track and on the street. We're gonna be back on 19s, which isn't a bad thing really, because the 18s left so much wheel gap, it wasn't that pretty. So at least with 19s, we'll fill a little bit more gap up. And also the car won't be as low now. So while my friend Corey is finishing up our brake cooling ducts or our power steering ducts up tonight that we need to put back on here to scoop up air, if we're back on 19s, then technically we'll be a 1/2 inch taller on the wheel. And then whatever tire we end up going with, we may be like another 1/4 inch taller that we won't be dragging on the ground and breaking things anymore. And then getting up and off of my trailer will be easy because these 18s did lower the overall car height. Wow, those are definitely a lot heavier though. Those 18s, even though they're not forged, they are a hell of a lot lighter, which that does kind of suck for performance, that we were gonna have a faster car, a better handling car, and a better braking car, because lighter rotational weight does add up to all of that. And yeah, we only have what looks to be about maybe 1/4 inch now. So even the 19s are quite freaking close. That black stud still wants to hit the OEM wheel, so we're very, very close. Well, holy crap, I think I guessed right. I asked like a dozen people on the forums if anyone had this setup and if they could tell me how many washers they used on their factory ride without some crazy coilovers that like slam their car to the ground, and not one person can answer me. So I am one of the very few people that must have this setup here. But I went with the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch spacer. That was my first time guess, and to me, to the naked eye, not only does it look like the ball joint end is completely flat, but it also looks like the power steering rack and the lower control arm are also completely flat. So I think we're gonna basically run with that. I'm gonna take the wheel back off and get everything tightened up to spec. And then it looks like we're ready for the alignment shop and to do the passenger side. But it looks like that went really well and super easy to do. All right guys, so a little bit of a hiccup. Because SPL only supplies 2 of these real thin washers, that again are nuts that are only supposed to be used to kind of counter torque so you can get your upper nut tightened up. They're large nut with nylon washer, which again doesn't even matter, or I guess it does matter a little bit spacer wise, but with this guy on here, I cannot even put the factory tire back on because not only are we not engaging the nylon, but this thing's sticking still down out below, or the threads are still up inside. This sticks below where the threads are. So I can't even put the 19-inch wheel on. And again, I'm pretty confident the way that everything looks that I should be using the 1/2-inch washer and the 1/4-inch washer. Maybe this guy would fit if I only used the 1/2-inch, or if I used the 1/2-inch and the 1/8, or I guess the 1/8 and the 1/4. But yeah, this does not work. So I just ordered those Nord lock washers. This guy right here is a 5/8-inch bolt. So I guess the inside diameter is the most important. If Nord does make like wider ones, it doesn't matter. You're still going to be engaging the bottom of the nuts and the bottom of the lower arm here. So it doesn't really matter. It should lock on. But I'm going to contact SPL about that. I'm going to tell them, hey guys, maybe suggestion, get rid of these stupid things. Put some Nord washers in your kit because they do come like carbon steel, zinc plated, and stainless steel. But if you guys just throw those into your kit, this would alleviate a little bit of problems. Not to mention, you guys could probably grind down the bottom of this or make this guy a little bit shorter so that you could fit 18s. And then you can use just a single one of these with a Nord washer and might make everybody a little bit happier. But yeah, I can't even get the factory wheel back on. So I got to take this nut off, leave it off for some time until I get that side done. And then I can go ahead and put this on each side and then do it all over again when the Nord washers show up. But again, the Nord washers that I bought are these guys right here. So I guess I'm just going to get to this side over here. And then we have to start bleeding the brakes, and then we'll get this guy up in the air and we'll do the oil change. All right, everybody, just finished with the passenger side. So now it's time to do the maintenance. So I don't think I'm gonna do the rear differential. That oil's only been in there for like 1,000 miles or so, and it's got 1 track day on it. And diff oil, I'm not really worried about that breaking down. But the brake fluid, on the other hand, because it's racing brake fluid, I think it only lasts about 1 year, or it's gonna suck in too much water from the outside air, like condensation wise. It kind of like pulls it in through the atmosphere. Water gets into the braking system, then you don't brake as much. I know there's only 1 track day on there, but again, sitting for over a year in a humid garage, I think you can pick up some fluid into the braking system. So we're just gonna bleed it out and then do the oil change. But as for the brake bleeding, if you guys don't have one of these, I don't know what you're doing. This one happens to be a 4 Uncles brake bleeder. You simply just hook it to an air compressor and then hook this guy onto the nipple. You crack it open and leave it cracked open. Push down on the lever right here, and it's got an automatic lever that you just turn that guy over right there, and it stays engaged. And it can literally suck an entire brake fluid system in a matter of seconds. I laugh so many times I see these professional YouTubers and car people that they have somebody sit in the car and they pump the brakes and stuff, or they've got this little catch bottle that they hang to gravity, and again, somebody's either pumping the brakes or they're just letting it all drain out. This literally is only like $69, I think, when I bought it. And again, it takes seconds, and you only need 1 person to do it and an air compressor. I comment all the time, will you guys just buy one of these things? It'd be so much quicker and easier and faster. You're rebuilding cars on YouTube and you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, yet you don't have a $70 item to make your life just 10 times easier and almost guaranteed to get all of the fluid out and all of the air bubbles. So just buy one. It's so freaking easy and fast. All right, everybody, all done with the brakes. Like I said, super simple, super fast to do it. The only complaint that I have that I guess I'm noticing now, as opposed to I did when I first did it, when the car was brand new, the internal reservoir looks like it has 2 pockets. And even if I wanted to suck everything out of the reservoir first, so I wasn't sending all the dirtiness like through the lines and getting sucked out, you really can't. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but right there is a line where this is all clean and fresh fluid. And back behind this line over here, it's all like dirty fluid. Way, way darker than the front half. But if you take the cap off and look down inside, you can't get anything to go over to the back half. I mean, 4 Uncles comes with a extra hose with like a real paper thin type of hose on it that you can hook up. I guess maybe if I fished it around in there and could get it like down and under something, but I don't understand why the dirtiness on that side isn't getting sucked straight down. And I'm confused why they're split from like front to back. But that concerns me that that back half probably holds a good half a bottle or more. And it looks like it's just really old and dirty now, being 3,000 miles. But maybe it isn't a problem because, I mean, every time the fluid dropped on the front half, we know we were sucking that to the through the lines and we were getting clean fluid back there. So it's like half of the fluid in the reservoir does not ever get sucked down and it just stays there and gets dirty. So that's really, really weird. But I don't know. Like I said, all I can say is I know that everything has been flushed through, 2 full bottles. So we're almost guaranteed that all of the factory fluid is now out of it. And that's all the fluid that's now in there. So that thing is actually pretty darn full. And again, we know that we're good, that we've got more racing brake fluid in the system than not. All right, guys, I'm gonna do the oil change off camera. We all know how an oil change goes, but it is gonna be cool to use it, do it on a lift for the first time and actually have my little catch can that rises up and can catch all the oil. So that's gonna be sweet, but I gotta wait for a few days to get the Nord lock washers in. We'll put those lock washers in. We got to go to the alignment shop and get the front end fixed. And then if that rear wheel finally gets here, we'll swap out the passenger rear. So we've got that changed out. And then I think we should be good to go. There's nothing else that we have to do before the track day. But hopefully everything comes on time. The washers, the time appointment that I can get into the shop to do the alignment, and then to actually get that rear wheel mounted and balanced. So fingers crossed it all happens at once. But I'll see you guys back in a few days. I got to get out of that garage. I cannot wait to get air conditioning in there. It is absolutely horrendous. Being 80+ degrees and like almost 100% humidity. I've got to get a dehumidifier going in there, or again, at least purchase my wall mount mini split AC so we can bring that temperature down and that humidity. But that will be at another time when I actually get money to do that. But sorry, this video is running long, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. We'll do a full track day in the next video without the maintenance, and we'll go from there. So until next time, take care.